Chrome, and not on Safari or not on Edge. It's also not good. Okay, so I want to leave it at that. So these developer tools are really worth exploring if you have never seen this before. Right, so I want to finish it, chapter 1 from Zybook by this. We covered, I think, 1.1 and 1.2 extensively. I want to briefly show you the web trends section. Right, so this is the browser market share fight that I told you about. The green line is Google Chrome. Right, you see this is by far. They almost have a monopoly. The gray one is other, right? So number 2 is not even a real competitor. And then we have Safari and Firefox, etc. Okay. Let's do one participation activity, right? Because Chrome is by far the leading browser worldwide. Testing websites only really needs to be done only on Chrome. True or false? Yeah, good. Web developers typically create web pages using features available exclusively on a particular browser. True or false? False used to be true, right? In this first browser war, people try to do that. We have a very cool new feature on our website, so everybody comes to our new website because we use the blink tag, something else, something stupid. Okay, I hope this is false. Yes. Web developers can sometimes ignore really, really old web browsers. Why is it true? Oops. It's true, of course. It's just practical reason, right? You cannot still test for Netscape if it doesn't even run on your machine anymore. So if nowadays people still use Netscape and it doesn't work, too bad for them. Sorry. This is also an interesting trend. So the blue line is desktop, and the orange line that starts below for people that are colorblind is mobile. Right? You see a clear decline, and then for a few years mobile was actually used more than desktop. But now we see it's almost 50-50 for quite some time. So that's also interesting. So why would that be? So who of you uses exclusively mobile to use the web? One? Only one. Who of you exclusively use desktop? Because they hate the web on their mobile. Who uses both? So why would you use both? Why do you use your desktop instead of your phone? Yeah, so some browsers, some websites are easier to view on your desktop, yeah, because it's a bigger screen. Other reasons?
Some web pages do not allow you to view the page on mobile.
Some web servers still have pages that are not accessible on mobile. These are really bad websites, by the way, but I agree they still exist. Another reason. So there's the big screen, right, versus the small screen. I think there are different device issues than just screen.
I use the device in front of me, whether it is the laptop or the mobile, it doesn't matter.
Okay, so that's also a good answer, right? I just use whatever I have in front of me. That's also something I do a lot, so yeah. So yeah, that was the answer I was looking for, right? So sometimes it's really nice to have a mouse and a physical keyboard. If you have to type lots of text, if you have to do a lot of form filling, if you have to do drawings or whatever, then using an old-fashioned keyboard and an old-fashioned mouse sometimes it's just more efficient than using your touchscreen.
If you're speaking about very bad websites, and I can say VU course registration is one of them. It's not available on mobile.
Ah, so I didn't know that, but I agree. It's bad. It's bad. So another thing I think that's good to know, there are a lot of free systems that you as a student have access to, that I as a staff member have no access to, or if I do have access, it looks for me completely different than for you. Right? So the free registration system, because I am not a student, I cannot even access it. So I have no clue what it looks like or whether it's available on mobile or not. And also on Canvas, right? Canvas looks really different for the students than for me. So if there's something going wrong there, right, and I don't notice, please let me know. Last year there was an entire section on Canvas not published, right? That's like a very, very small icon in the corner of my page that tells me that, but for the rest everything is fine for me, but you cannot see anything. So if I make a mistake there, please let me know, because I just cannot see whatever you see. Also your roster, right? It's completely personalized. I have no clue what your specific roster looks like, and I cannot emulate that or fake that. Okay. Last, let's just finish this before the break. There's a lot of there's some material on Internet of Things, right? I think that's just for information if you find it interesting. I'm not going to pay a lot of details of that in this course. What we are going to do some attention to is web accessibility, right? Because I think that's an important topic. One thing I've learned in the past is if I design my web content in a way that's accessible for a lot of different people, it also is better adaptive for different devices. These things typically go hand in hand. If you pay attention to these accessibility guidelines, you make your content accessible for a lot more diverse group of people, but it also makes it better on different devices. So I think from a efficiency, right, just a functionality perspective, I think it's really good to make try to make your websites accessible as possible. Of course, it's also an ethical thing, right? Making your website in a way that half of the population cannot use it because if you're colorblind, you cannot see it. If you're totally blind, you can hear it. If you're dyslexic, there's so much difficult text. It's an ethical issue, and of course, there's also a legal issue. Right, so in Design Group, there is a lot of attention for the American legal situation. But we have very similar rules here in the Netherlands and in Europe, and there are all, especially for government websites, right, all kinds of legal obligations to make your website accessible. So knowing that these things exist and knowing how to make your website accessible will be a specific part of assignment 4. But if you look at these rules, once you know them, it's actually quite simple, right? It's just I just mentioned in the graphic, right, that the blue line and the red line. Well, if they didn't make the blue line and the red line there by accident, right? They did not do the blue and the green one because that's a known problem for many people that are colorblind. But even if you have a blue and an orange line, you can still say the orange line that starts in the bottom left, right, and goes up, and the blue line that starts in the bottom right, it goes down. There's still people that cannot see that color difference can understand what you're talking about. And there are a lot of very simple rules that make your website more accessible. Like this. I think that's all I want to say. Some of you came to me in the break a bit frightened about the HTML only requirement that I asked you to do for assignment 1. Right? That's only for the first part of assignment 1. In the second part for assignment 1, you're going to do also CSS, so you can make it as nice as possible before you turn it in. So you don't need to turn in an ugly website. But because of the separation of concerns, I want you to completely separate it. So you know when you're doing the HTML part, for what reasons you're doing things in HTML, and when you do things later in CSS, for what reasons you do other things in CSS, and what things you change to your HTML because it then works better in CSS. Just for educational purposes, I want you to separate these things. But in the Design book it's explained that it's more than just educational, right? it makes things faster, it makes things more scalable, it makes things easier to adapt if you really separate these things. So that's one thing I want to stress. We have these different standards, and they are there for a reason, right? So there's a reason why they put all the style in CSS and didn't put it in HTML. There are engineering reasons, right? It makes things easier to maintain. It makes things faster, right? Because if the Vue style sheet is the same for all pages, you only need to load it once, right? And then for the rest, you only need the HTML. So it becomes faster, it becomes cheaper on your mobile data subscription. There are all kinds of reasons why this separation of concerns is a good idea, and we're going to emphasize that over and over in this course. Like you don't put the CSS in the HTML, you don't put the JavaScript in the HTML. Try to keep things that are separate as possible, because that makes things really better. Okay, so I want to do the HTML things after the break. I think so this section 2, right? So learning HTML, I think I can tell you how it works, how the basics works, right? But really learning it, you only learn it by doing it. And for assignment 1, we're going to ask you to write HTML by hand, the old-fashioned way. So no things that generate HTML automatically for you, no fancy editors that completely fill in all the HTML template stuff without you understanding what it fills in. Just use a very simple text editor. And some of you, I heard, use Atom and like that, that's fine. If you use Notepad++, that's fine. If you're old school like me and use VI or Emacs, that's fine too. Whatever text editor you're using, it's fine. The amount of code that you need to write is so small, right? It's not going to be a big advantage if you use something more fancy. But the risk of something more fancy is that the more fancy tool does all kinds of things under the hood that you don't know of, and then you submit, and then you get penalty points because you did all kinds of wrong things that were not part of the assignment. So please use assignment 1 please use the assignment 1, a very simple text editor, and if you have not done so before, right, this is the opportunity to do so. There will be many more courses where this is actually fancy. If you haven't picked a text editor, I get a lot of good reports about Atom, A-T-O-M. People like that. It's available on any platform, Windows, Mac, Linux, whatever. So try it out if you haven't done so before. If you're happy with Notepad++, fine with me. The more simple, the better. Okay, see you back after the break, and then we're going to do the HTML stuff.